Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Downkirk podcast. My name's Ethan Downing.
And I'm Robert Kirkendall III.
And today we had a little project that we were working on where we each created 5 of our own Bond titles, like James Bond movie titles. Because if you don't know, the James Bond movie titles are kind of funny. Because I think, is that the only series that you can think of where the entire title is different every time? There's nothing in common with any of the titles.
You mean like, because you have like Mission Impossible, which is kind of what I was also thinking about. Like they have like,
they always start with Mission Impossible though.
That's true, but I guess they're always like Mission Impossible then number, whereas the James Bond ones never say that. I
think like 4 through 7 or 4 through 6 have all been. They don't say 4 or 5 or 6. They're like Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation or something, but they still say like Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
Yeah. I think James Bond would have to be the only one. I mean, I think, and the cool part about that too is that like we all just know it's a James Bond movie. Like they never say it in the title.
I have every James Bond title here on my phone because I list them out. I've seen a lot of them actually. I wanted to see how many I haven't seen. I think there's like 6 I haven't seen of the 27. But can you guess? This is a trivia question. How many of the 27 James Bond titles have the word gold in it?
5.
3, actually. It's just 3.
That's 3, okay.
Yeah, it is GoldenEye, Goldfinger, and The Man with the Golden Gun.
I figured there was just one I forgot or a couple I forgot. So
I thought that there would be way more. I was like, because I kept thinking of Bond movies in terms of gold, like how much gold there is.
Yeah.
But
I feel like there would be a lot more too, though, with like, I don't know. I feel like they mention death so often. I don't know.
That rolls into my first title. So the first of my proposed title, I want you to tell me if it's hot or not, if it would work. Okay. The first title that I came up with was Death Squared, but with the little 2 symbol. death with the little 2. It's Death Squared. It's with imagine like a Riddler type villain who's like really into math or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, what, solve this equation, James Bond. Like, something like that. That's what I imagine. All right. So what's your first? We'll go back and forth.
We'll go because I gotta click on it. Give me 1 second.
We'll go 1 for 1.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just go with we'll go with the first one with death because I have one with death. Actually, I have 2.
Okay.
2. But anyways, I gotta tell death do us part. I thought that was a pretty good one.
That actually is a pretty good one. I like that.
I think you're gonna see throughout this. I like because we both love the George Lazenby one on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and so like a lot of them are gonna do. I almost am imagining just more so like the parts of James Bond I really like, or the parts that I thought were really funny about James Bond. So yeah, till death do us part. I just imagine it's like about him trying to save his wife.
Yeah, it's nice to have. You gotta have at least one long one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I noticed, other than George Lazenby, every other James Bond has made at least like one bad James Bond movie. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it.
That's true. Because I mean, what's weird though? Everybody always talks about George Lazenby, but Timothy Dalton only made 2, I think, right?
He made 2, but I've seen. So he made Living Daylights and License to Kill, and everyone says, at least me and Emac were talking, and a few other people I know who are really into the Bond films say that License to Kill is the good one, and then Living Daylights is the bad one. And I saw License to Kill, and I actually really liked it. It was like, it reminds me of Lethal Weapon in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like explosions and like car chases and like wacky stuff like that happening. It's an 80s movie.
I feel like
so that was good.
I feel like License to Kill would have to be the good one, right? I mean, that's the better title.
Living Daylights is not that bad though.
Really?
The one that just came out, No Time to Die, seems like such a generic James Bond title that I'm surprised it wasn't already taken. It's like Reason to Kill. That was a fake movie title that you came up with a while ago, and I remember thinking, like, how's no one taken that? Like, if you look up Reason to Kill, there hasn't been a single English-made feature-length film. Doesn't that seem like a action movie that someone had made?
We were talking about was it Steven Seagal? I think, or was it Jean-Claude Van Damme? I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, Reason to Kill. I feel like that's. I mean, you just think to kill, just kill.
I have two different movies, action movies I've seen. One's called Hard Kill, and another one is called Hard to Kill. And I feel like Hard to Kill is a lot more common. That's a Steven Seagal movie. Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
And then Hard Kill is a Bruce Willis movie. But all right, so so I have one long one.
Yeah.
In honor of Lazenby, it's In Love with the Golden Girl, because I wanted to put gold.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be. It can't be a gold finger or a gold gun or a gold eye. It's already been done. But like, I feel like Golden Girls, the show, has it's been long enough since the show. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, everyone's gonna be thinking about the Golden Girls as soon as I say it. Like, no, it's gonna be a lady in like a gold jumpsuit or something.
Can we hear the plot to that one? Yeah, she's in a gold jumpsuit. Is that like the introduction?
So he falls in love with her, and then she is like secretly, she's like a damsel in distress by day, but then she's like the golden girl by night, and she like wears a golden jumpsuit, and she like, and you know, she does what all girls do in action movies, where they just kick with a high heel, and that's the move that no one can ever counter ever, and so that's her move. And then he has to find the golden girl, and he doesn't realize it's her, and then he kills her. Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, okay, so it's like he's looking for someone who is her, but he doesn't know it's her.
That's actually kind of the plot of Goldeneye. He like fell in love with that one lady, and then he found out she was the villain. Remember?
Yeah. Well, so like also though, I'm thinking like, what if her skin was golden, but for a different reason? Like, like it turns gold at night because it's like the moonlight brings it out of her skin.
Like it's an actual medical condition.
Yeah.
That would be even cooler. Yeah.
She like glows a little, and she's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, James, I can't, come to the door." Like
the thing about Goldeneye is that I don't think it's ever explained why it's called Goldeneye. Like the man with the golden gun, there's actually a guy with a golden gun. Yeah. Goldfinger, there's actually a guy who has a gold finger. But Goldeneye is just like, that's Goldeneye. That's just
that's
like
you got more gold in it too, because I figured that was classic.
So you have at least one gold title?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay. What's your gold?
Gold Tooth.
Gold Tooth. Okay. I like that. That's pretty good.
I think it'd be funny because so many people have gold teeth, they'd be like, I don't, which one is it? Like, we got a couple. You know what I mean? They're confused which gold tooth it is.
It's not like remarkable. It's like calling it a gold necklace or something.
Yeah. That'd be funny to see James Bond like looking through all the teeth. Like, okay, I see about 50 people with gold teeth.
He goes to a nursing home with a pair of pliers and just starts pulling teeth.
That'd be so funny.
Another one I have. This one is kind of a homage to how James Bond is always like getting with girls, and so James Bond is always getting with girls in different movies, and he always has different love interests. So this one is kind of like homage to like the playful banter. Back and forth. This one's called My Pleasure. You know how he's like, my pleasure.
My pleasure. Yeah.
My pleasure. So wouldn't that be kind of like a classy James Bond one? It's like, it's not too sexual, but it's like, it's kind of like an homage to being like, hey, like he's always like playing different women at the same time.
Yeah. I think that one is a little too short, but I think it like if you beefed it out just a bit, like
maybe added something to it.
Just like it's my pleasure, maybe. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That could be even better, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just like bump it up a little bit. Because I do think My Pleasure, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd watch that movie. It sounds like a...
You knew it was a Bond movie. It's like there's explosions in the...
Okay. My Pleasure.
What's yours? What's the
He's like Chick-fil-A. He just has to say thank you.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure.
Yeah. So okay, this one, mine was like I had this idea. Obviously, I just ripped it off of the of this one, but I thought it was so funny how many women Bond is obviously with. So it's just called STDs Are Forever, and I just
STDs Are Forever. That's hilarious.
I just thought that would be really funny to like. I don't know, like could you? I guess to deal with that now. I don't. Like, what happened? He's like, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm James Bond. I can save the world.
after Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah. And I just feel like the idea of seeing him like have to go to like the doctor and like deal with it, like really like deal with like the consequences of his lifestyle.
Yeah, that would be funny. Well, Steve Martin did one where he played like a James Bond that was really cheap. Like he would always like instead of like the girl had a glass of wine and they were in bed, and then it showed him like pouring the wine glass back into the bottle because he didn't want to waste it. Like, what if James Bond was really cheap? Like, what if he got the room? Like, it was like he flew in coach.
Yeah.
Okay. This one. I wanted a one-word title. So like Skyfall or Spectre.
Yeah.
So this one's just called Gunfire. One word.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like
Gunfire. Yeah. Kind of like there's another one like that. Let me see here. Where it's one word, like kind of like Goldfinger or Goldeneye. It's like two words mashed together, but it's or Thunderball.
Yeah. Gunfire. No, that sounds almost too American though. It sounds almost too intense for a Bond. You know what I mean? Like gun. That sounds like a Jason Statham film. That isn't.
Yeah.
I like it though.
Okay, what's yours? What's another one?
Yeah, I got another one. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Only death is guaranteed. I don't know. I thought that.
Ooh, that's not that bad.
Yeah, I think that's another one where like I was just thinking more of like they have these phrases in there like you only live twice, or they like kind of like I don't know, they like play around with it.
The world is not enough.
Yeah, things like that. So I just thought like I don't know, like I was gonna because I was kind of stuck between like I don't know, maybe death and taxes are forever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a little long though.
And I thought it would be funny though to like, it would be funny to see like any kind of what if Bond? What if he's being chased because he had like a tax situation? He hadn't paid his taxes all the way.
Exhibition. That would be funny.
Yeah, Bond, we're gonna come in.
Yeah. So another one I had is just kind of in the theme of the Casino Royale. Kind of like the casino is a popular setting.
Yeah.
For a lot of James Bond movies. So this one's called Gamblers Tell Lies.
That's not that bad actually.
Gamblers Tell Lies. Like because it's like there's some playful banter with him and like some bad guy with an eye patch across the table. And he's like, "You're a true gambler." He's like, "Oh, gamblers tell lies."
Yeah, I like that. I think I want to do one about because I like the word parlay and I think it would sound really good in a James Bond title.
Oh, that would sound good in the James Bond title.
But I couldn't think of a way to work it in. I could not think of any title that like was sounding good.
Just parlay. Just the word. That's it.
Parlay.
Just parlay.
It's like three-way parlay.
The parlay players.
Yeah. Well, I feel like now we're just getting into like that doesn't sound like a Bond title though. Like I said, three-way parlay was the closest I got to one. Where it was
that's not that bad actually. Like a bet that three people are involved in.
And also a lot of other innuendos there, right? Like classic James Bond titles.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so the last one that I have is just Marriage License. I thought it'd just be funny to see James.
Well, he's only been married in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think that's the only one he's ever been married in.
No Time to Die, he has a kid.
Spoiler.
But he doesn't even know he has a kid.
He doesn't know he has a kid until the very end, which at the beginning, I was kind of like, that's messed up that she didn't tell him that it was his kid. But then I was like, I get it, though. I get it. I like kind of get it a little bit because he's probably just going to die, which is what ended up happening. So it's like, I think it's more to protect the kid. Was it a boy or a girl that he had?
I think it was a girl with like these blue eyes. That's how he knew it was him. Like that he was the father because he had the same blue eyes, or the girl had the same blue eyes.
Yeah, so it worked out because he didn't end up getting with her because the bad guy told a lie about her betraying him.
Yeah,
he believed it, and then he just
Well, dude, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that was a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was thinking though even more like it's kind of funny that like it's cool that he had a daughter and not a son, and I think because like if he had a son, I would just be thinking like when's that guy gonna become when's that kid gonna become James Bond?
James like Bond.
Yeah. His can become like James Bond, but I don't think there was as much of like that wasn't as much of like a storyline. I think it was just more of like this is the end of this saga of James Bond. You know what I mean?
And I did like there's rumors that have been going on forever about there being like a black female James Bond, and they did put that in the movie, but they didn't I'm okay with there being a special agent that is a black female, and that's
Yeah.
a movie. But I just don't like that it replaces. Like, you don't have to replace the already set up hero. Like, you can just have that be a spin-off, and I like that they did that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I like that because that's what everybody thought anyways, that the 007 was like just a title, right? Like that each character, each version of James Bond is just like a code name. That's why you have like all the different ones, and that's why it's lasted like this long.
Which is the only way you can really explain it.
That's the only way that you could like that's, you know what I mean? And so that's why I really like how they just kind of emphasized that in that movie. They kind of just confirmed the fact that it is something that's passed on.
The only other problem with that is all the other names are passed on too, like M and Q and Blofeld. There's been like 6 Blofelds. You know what I mean? So it's like, are these guys all passing on the name?
It kind of would make sense though, because it would make it so impersonal. You know what I mean? Like you never know who's who. You know?
I guess so. Yeah. There was an episode. There was one of the movies where they brought in all of the 00 agents from like 001 to 009, and they all got killed. Except for Bond in like one of the Roger Moore ones.
Dude, Roger Moore, by the way, has to have the most duds of any James Bond film, like of any of the James Bond
ones that I didn't even know existed. Like A View to Kill. Did you know A View to Kill is a James Bond movie?
Well, I did because I looked at it recently, but no, before this, I did not. Yeah, I was surprised by like all these ones he did, and I was like, did he really? He pumped them out, dude. He was like the Tom Brady of James Bond.
So the only 2 ones that a lot of people say that he did that were like good was Live and Let Die and Octopussy. Pretty much everything else was like kind of like cheesy 70s. Like, yeah.
I would think Moonraker would have to be tops.
Come on, dude! James Bond goes to space. That's what's so like.
It's the only one he goes to space in. That's how it sets it apart. That's
you know who else? You know who else went to space? F9. F9 and Ludacris went to space.
Do you remember when I told you that the Jason X was in space, and you're like, "Yep, I'm sold on it now." That's my point, though. I'm saying James Bond, and then like in space, right? And I'm saying like that he's only been in space once. That has to be at least like, I don't know. I mean, that has to be somewhere like, at least in terms of like ones that people would talk about. That has to be in the like conversation. All of them like what is Octopussy? He falls in love with like, you know, a girl, right? And like, I mean, it's all the same James Bond stuff, but like Moonraker is in space. Like
Live and Let Die had one of the best. It has such a good chase scene that it's good enough to like compete with modern day chase scenes of how awesome it is.
Really?
Have you seen Live and Let Die?
No, I haven't. I've only seen Roger Moore like in like clips, you know what I mean? I haven't seen him in like, I haven't seen a full Roger Moore movie because I'm not a huge fan of his James Bond.
Live and Let Die is a good one to start with. And maybe save Octopussy for the end, probably.
Yeah. Isn't your dad a huge Roger Moore fan?
For him, his childhood was Roger Moore was his Bond. Because I think he started in like the 70s.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that Sean Connery kept making Bond films while they were already on like 3 Bonds after him. He kept making Bond films.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Like they were on Timothy Dalton, and he made Never Say Never Again.
Well, is Never Say Never Again an official Bond film? I think I was telling you about that. How I don't think it's the official. I think that's one of the 2 unofficial ones.
It might not be, but I mean, come on, like it's Sean Connery playing a guy named James Bond with a similar title, similar everything, similar box office numbers. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything's gonna like
box office numbers.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that might have made Timothy Dalton have a premature end to his Bond career, if I'm being honest. Because I actually really liked him in License to Go. I really liked him.
I think it's like I was telling you. I think Daniel Craig had the best like run of James Bond movies. I don't think he has a bad one. I really don't. I can't think of. I think
Quantum of Solace is his dead. His is only dead. That like is not that.
See, good. I liked Quantum of Solace, but I do think like I can see why
it's the weakest though.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also the shortest. I think.
Okay.
I think it's like definitely like you were saying. It's definitely of all the ones that he has is his weakest. But I think it's. I mean, it'd probably be my top 10 favorite Bond movies. Still, I think.
If I were to do it, if I were to be Bond, I would want to do 3 because I don't think anyone's ever done 3. They've always done, I think, because Pierce Brosnan's done 4. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, he did 4. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, 4. He did 4. Daniel Craig's done 5. Timothy Dalton's done 2. George Lazenby and Peter Sellers both did 1. And then Roger Moore and Sean Connery did like 7 or 8 each of them. So I would like to do 3. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Be like a guys like, and I want to do a trilogy. Like you go in with that.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if you already knew the end, like you know the beginning James Bond movie, you know the middle one, and you know the ending one. Like you guys already have it all.
You know the general story, not like everything's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, but you know, like okay, like in this movie, I'm saying like you know the big plot points, like big plot point in the first James Bond, I'm being introduced, right? And you know, like okay, so like such and such dies, right? That haunts you in the second one, but then you end up meeting this new girl, right? Then in the third one, you end up getting with that girl again. You know what I mean? And then like, do you understand like a full story arc? It's kind of like how Star Wars, you know, the first trilogy was written all as one movie, and then he cut it up basically into 3 movies. And I think like in similar.
Are you talking about 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I meant. Yeah. And I think like I kind of like that idea. That's also why like Darth Vader didn't die. Yeah, just to be planned, and you don't have to have everything. But I just mean like enough to where I'm like, okay, like this is ending in 3 movies. Like you're not going to just spin this off into a 4th movie.
There are definitely times where you feel like they didn't plan on making a sequel, and they kind of just want to make a sequel so that everyone can get paid again, and everyone can make more money, and everyone can like kind of keep the thing going for the fans. But there are times where it felt a little forced. Like I definitely felt that with Anchorman 2. They like in the end of Anchorman 1, they ended it as if like this is it. Like we're all going our separate ways. But then like obviously Anchorman 2 was a fun, silly, hilarious movie that like you don't, as long as you don't take it too seriously, like who cares, you know? But like it is nice if you plan it, you know what I mean, sometimes.
Well, for sure. And I think it's kind of like it just reminds me of The Hangover, right? The Hangover Part 1 and Part 3 makes so much more sense to me. Like I actually like how those are more intertwined.
Part 2 it got so much criticism because it's almost the same storyline, just with different people in the place.
Yeah.
It's like they're losing a guy and then trying to find him again. You know what I mean?
And it was like, I don't know, that storyline's, and they lost Doug in the third one again, but like it was for a different reason.
It was a hostage situation.
Yeah, it was completely, you know what I mean? And they had it because this happened in the first movie. It just seems so much better, like so much more planned out.
You could almost skip it. You could almost skip the second one. Like, and not miss out on any plot points.
Yeah.
Not to say the second one is like, if you just look at it as from a comedic standpoint, it's a hilarious, fun movie. Like,
it's a funny movie. Yeah. I mean, it does this job. You could just tell that it was kind of like, okay, the first one was big. Let's make a second one. Let's just make
the second one was just so much more intense. Like the first one was like, oh, I'm missing a tooth and there's a tiger in the bathroom. The second one was like, all right, that dude just OD'd on crack and there's a severed finger in the ashtray. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like serious life consequences.
I do think that the one way that the first one kind of beat the second one just like tremendously in terms of intensity was the Mike Tyson scene. Like, I don't care but seeing Mike Tyson in the movie and he's like, dude, is that Mike Tyson? You know, and then,
dude, the scene where they sing "In the Air Tonight" with Mike Tyson, like you know, like you saw if you look at Bradley Cooper's face, you know he's thinking like, I know I'm supposed to be excited, but I'm really excited. Like in real life, I'm really excited to be singing because that had to be one of the best moments of their lives. Like you get to sing a song with Mike Tyson, like that's so awesome.
It's so crazy to even think that, like, the reason why this is so crazy, dude. Mike Tyson for the rest of his life will be so well known because of what he did when he was like, when did he become a world champion? When he was like 19, 20, 19? Yeah, dude, he became a world champion when he was 19, right? And then he fought for like what, 3 years, like in a row, maybe, like since like 89, I guess, because he won in 88. I think he fought till 89, and then he won. And then he
didn't he become a champion and lose it and become a champion again like multiple times.
Yeah, but then he went to prison for like a bit. But I'm saying though, either way though, it was mostly for that first period where he became a champion so quickly and he was so dominant, where he just knock out dudes in like minutes. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a question of if you were gonna lose, it was when are you gonna lose? Because Tyson, but he was an animal, dude. I mean that in the best way, Mr. Tyson. No.
He's an animal, like he's not like intelligent like regular people are. Like no, I'm just saying. No, dude, but like,
have you seen that video where they're like, hey, what's your opinion on Mike Tyson? Do you think he's like top 10 boxer? And people will be like, no, he's pretty good, but I don't know if I'd say top 10. And then Mike Tyson will walk up behind them and he's like, what'd you say? right? And they're like, well, you know, like now that I think about it, like he probably is like top 10, you know, really like.
It's like I was watching this interview where he was on a like one of those morning news shows, and there's this other guy there, and he started to ask him about his allegations for being in prison, and the guy's like, you know, you're a jerk for asking that, and he got really upset and he started cursing. And I remember thinking, like, dude, if that guy comes for you, there's not a security guard on this earth that can pull him off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's literally, like, I heard a guy say, being in a room with Mike Tyson is like being in a room with a wild animal. Like, like a lion. Like, there's a lion right there in the room.
Dude, that's what dude, the famous boxer Lennox Lewis, who I think is actually better than Tyson in terms of just boxing. But Lennox Lewis, when he's in the room, Lennox Lewis fought him, and he ended up beating Mike Tyson. But Lennox Lewis, by the way, it was like Tyson it was like washed Tyson. It was older Tyson. Not to take anything away from Lennox Lewis, but it was older Tyson. But they got there at a conference where they were talking about fighting each other, and then they literally fought. They got like into like a little bit of a scrap, you know, during the thing, like talking crap on each other. And Lennox Lewis said that Mike Tyson bit him. So he said for like the rest of his life now, anytime he's in a room with Mike Tyson, he's always on his guard. Like he's just waiting to like, you know what I mean? If Tyson comes after him, he's waiting to like, you know, throw a jab. And I'm like, dude, that's how intense it is. And I heard Joe Rogan talk about it too, where he said like when Mike Tyson was sitting across the desk from him, like the table from him, he said he felt like the table should be a little bigger. Like there were a couple of times where Mike got a little excitable. And Joe Rogan was like, yeah. Like he said he was a little nervous.
And that's crazy for Joe Rogan to say, because Joe Rogan is a unit, dude. Like he is like a unit. He has like muscles on muscles. He is jacked. Like he can seriously, I mean, I know he's like 56 years old and I'm not saying he could beat anyone in a fight, but he could beat most human beings. Like he could beat you and me in a fight.
Yeah. And I mean, even if he couldn't, even if like say like his fighting technique isn't great, because I know he trains and stuff, so he could beat us on that basis as well. But I'm saying even if he didn't, just being muscular helps a lot. Like that just kind of gives you a big advantage. Now, imagine being muscular and Mike Tyson, because I mean like because that's I mean that's absurd, you know. And like I don't know, dude. I mean Mike Tyson. You know the one thing I told somebody this, I said if Mike Tyson, like if I ever got the opportunity, I would want to take a punch from Mike Tyson. I don't know. I mean, I would ask him for full power, but I don't know if he'd give me full. I don't know.
That's what happened with Steve-O. Because Steve-O was in rehab with Mike Tyson. I don't know if you knew that. They were in rehab together, yeah. And then they both like messed up in their rehab and got sent back to like a holding cell the same day, just by coincidence. And they were like, "No way, man!" And they were like high five. And there was a roast. I think it was like there was a roast of someone, like one of the Comedy Central roasts, and Steve-O, William Shatner, and Mike Tyson were all there. And this is like when the credits are rolling, like the credits are going on the screen, but like all of the celebrities are still kind of talking, and you can hear them talk. And he's like, punch me in the face as hard as you can. And he's like, I'm not gonna do that, Steve-O. Like I could literally break your face. And then he's like, just hold your fist out and I'll run into your fist with my fist. And then he's like, okay. And so he held his fist out, and Steve-O did a running jump dive and he broke his own nose on Mike Tyson's face. And like literally the credits are rolling like and then he's like, oh, and like blood's gushing. It's like one of the funniest videos ever. And then William Shatner's there and he's like, Steve-O, what the heck? Like, what are you?
It's so funny, dude.
William, like Captain Kirk is like in his Captain Kirk voice, like, oh, that's Poppycock. Like, what are you doing? It was so hilarious.
Dude, I bet Captain Kirk would use that to hit on a woman. Does anybody help out my comrade Steve-O? Does anybody maybe this young nurse? I mean, Captain Kirk, dude, was a womanizer. I mean, he's like Captain Kirk's the James Bond of space.
That's what makes him so much better. That's what people don't understand. I literally say that to people, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." Like, because it's like, because there's always arguments on who would be the best, who would be the best captain, and a lot of people say Jean-Luc Picard for the next generation. But like, and yes, maybe like tactically, maybe in a nerdy military like technical way, he would be better. But like, dude, the guy you want to see on screen is William Shatner. I mean, come on,
dude.
Like,
on top of that, dude. This is how I feel about it. You were in the Civil War, how there was like Robert E. Lee, who's like this great tactician, you know, like this great, like, you know, general, like this great mind, you know. He's
Yeah,
like,
a great like warlike strategical mind.
yeah, that's probably Jean-Luc Picard. But then, dude, who won the war? Ulysses S. Grant, dude. Because there's something about Captain Kirk that like he has no give up in him. Like he doesn't know how to give up. You know what I mean?
That's not a fair comparison because the thing is there's nothing really compares to Robert E. Lee because the thing about the Union, a lot of people don't know, they like cycled through like 18
Well,
generals.
yeah. They said generals. But what I'm saying though is that like even so, I'm saying once Ulysses S. Grant got picked, I'm saying that's a guy. There's certain people that just have no. Yeah, but I'm saying like they just have no give up in them though. You know what I mean? Because I'm saying like, but if you look at his life though, like his life though, leading up to the Civil War was still just crap. You know what I mean? Like he did. It's not like he had this like. It's not like he was this like beloved figure his whole life. Whereas I think Robert E. Lee had that like beloved. You know what I mean? I mean, what? He's the only person to go through West Point to never get a. What is it? To never get
a citation.
Yeah, a citation. Yeah.
Which is insane if you think about it, because like you could get citation. Because when I was in the military, you could get like the smallest paperwork for the smallest thing. For being late 1 minute, you can get like a paperwork for it. You know what I mean?
You know what'd be really funny though is that like, what if his like last day he got it? Well, he almost got one, but they're like, you know, you made it this long. Like I don't know. Like you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. People talk a lot about the class of 1860. Which was the last class in West Point to have North and South before the Civil War. And every class after that was always like, it's just going to have the North and then the South are going to go somewhere else to like, and Annapolis. The South went to Annapolis a lot. And I was like thinking about that. Like, imagine going to class with people and like now you're facing them on the battlefield. Like that's the Civil War was crazy. The reason why the Civil War had so many casualties is because it's America versus America. That's what people don't understand.
That's true. Well, I think it's also weird though. I was gonna say that. Do you like they have college for war? I mean, think about it. It's weird in the sense of like that's how prominent it was. Like I know we still have it, but like we don't have it to that degree. I think like
the percentage. The thing is that less people like more people are in the military now than they were, but a smaller percentage. Like I think like 1% of people will be in the Marine Corps, and I think like less than 10% would be in the military at all. I think like because it's like how many people do you know in the military? Like it's just not. I don't feel like it's that common. Like I don't meet a lot of people.
I feel like okay, so I feel like I meet a lot of people, but it's kind of like what you're saying. Percentage wise, the percentage of people I meet in relation to the percentage of people I meet in the military are so small. So like
small.
I might meet 100 people, and one of them is in the military, right? You know what I mean? I do think it hurts though also that like being from my family, a lot of people in my family were in the military. So like I kind of come from like not a military family per se, but like more so than some people, you know.
Was your grandfather in the military?
Yeah, so both my grandfathers were in the military. My uncle was my great uncle was in the military. My uncle was in the military. My one of my best friends in high school, he went to the military. Obviously, you went to the military. So like I'm saying, like I mean, and just down the line, right? Like I can keep going because I'm saying
older generations is so much more common.
Yeah. Well, I think also another thing was the group of people I hung out with. They only really had two options: either get a job after high school or go to the military. You know what I mean? Like there weren't too many of them looking up for the college track. You know,
the kind of kids who threw their diploma away on graduation day.
They got it, and then they you know what I mean? They got it handed to them, and then they just tossed it in the trash on the way down the stairs.
I know, man. It's like there's like a class of people in high school, which I was friends with those people. The people who like thought everything was lame and everything sucks always. Like, and it sucks because it's like you don't because some things are legitimately lame and are there literally is like no purpose in you doing it, and then other things are like there's nothing wrong with being excited about graduating. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with being. I always want to like tell kids like that. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to go to homecoming or
I remember
start a club.
I remember there was this one time, dude, I was hanging out with those group of kids who were like, you know, oh, like we don't like this, we don't like that, you know. And I was like, is there anything you do like? And they both like stopped because there's two guys like having a conversation, and I was like, you know, do you guys like anything, or is this just like a bunch of guys don't like? Like what's going on right now? And they both looked up from like their video game because they had like playing phone, you know, their phone games on their phone, and they looked up and they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, I think it's funny when people ask you, what do you mean, when you said very clear, like you're like, where's your house? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, Where
you know what the word house means. You know what the word
right,
where means,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Where is your house? What do you? That's a simple statement. That's not a. I'm not over here writing Moby Dick, right? Like I'm not some like wordsmith, you know. But it's just
funny.
it's funny when people do that. They're like, well, what do you? I said like I remember one time I asked someone like I asked somebody at like McDonald's, or it wasn't McDonald's because I know McDonald's is Coke or Pepsi, but I asked someplace I hadn't been to in a while. I was like, are you guys Coke or Pepsi? You know what I mean? And they're like, what do you mean? And I get to some extent, but I'm like, that has to be. I mean, that's a pretty common question. That's not,
Yeah.
are you
Coke products
Coke
or
yeah.
Pepsi
Or
products.
Pepsi products? Like what? I don't. And then I was just like, do you guys have Coca-Cola or do you guys have Pepsi Cola?
Like now, if it's a gas station, they almost always have both. For some reason, gas stations always have like a ton of those.
It's probably because they have like a licensing deal. You know what I mean? They have a different licensing deal.
But they don't have a lot else besides like sealable stuff like candy and like soda. So it's like,
yeah.
Whereas restaurants have like whole thing. I've been a big Mr. Pibb guy lately.
Yeah.
I love Pibb Extra.
Pibb Extra is great. Dude, gas stations do have one other thing you forgot: horrible gas station food. Most of the time, horrible.
I mean, I don't know. I like gas station food.
The gas station food is like, okay, that's the barometer for like lowest rung. I mean, like trash can food is right below it. Like it goes like, okay, so it goes like really fancy restaurant, right? Obviously, and then like maybe home cooking, and then it goes like fast food, and then it goes like gas station food, and then it goes dumpster food. Because
yeah, well, like because I work in a small town gas station now, and you don't realize how much people are like almost view the gas station as like the restaurant of the town. Almost like, you know what I mean? Like literally, because like some small towns like literally will only have a gas station. So that's the only place where they can get hot food right there. The only place where you can get like taquitos, and like they can make a burrito in the microwave. They can eat a donut, like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that, yeah, they could drive like 30 minutes to the next town that has like restaurants and places to go, but like this is the town that they're in.
I'm sure you also see people using it as like a grocery store to some extent. Like someone will buy like a gallon.
Totally.
And you're like,
yeah, I've seen that. They'll buy like a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a gallon of milk, a carton of cigarettes, and they'll be like, "No, and this is where I go." It's like, okay,
this is life.
And they walk there and they walk back.
Don't you have a Walmart? Don't you have a Walmart in the town though?
In Ephraim, the town that I live in, but the town that I live in that I do the gas station in is this town called Manti. It's like 15 minutes away, so. They don't have a Walmart.
Okay. I'm also realizing now that you work for the gas station, you're not allowed to talk bad about gas stations. No, I'm just joking.
No, I could talk trash on this gas station. There's other gas stations that are definitely better than my gas station, for sure. I
think gas stations, but I think the barometer for gas stations, like the way I look at it, it's kind of like a restroom. Like you just want it to be clean. You don't want it to smell.
Yeah, but there's a gas station here that's really great. Like Quick Trip, it's similar to Quick Trip. They have like very clean tile floors, like very like nice murals and stuff like that on the wall. They have murals. It's like Maverick. If you're ever seen Maverick, the gas station, they're big in like, so I'd say they're big in Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, and like New Mexico area, Arizona, like kind of like the western, not all the way to California, but they're big on like adventure. Like this is the adventure stop, and so they'll have a mural of like someone skiing, someone like snowboarding. They'll have mannequins on the ceiling, like with like the kayak.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome. And then they have like a nice bathroom that has like multiple stalls. And like the thing about my gas station is it's like it is like 1970s gas station. It's like it's like a key to the bathroom type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, and the biggest problem with my gas station, it's a Chevron, and the biggest problem with this Chevron is they don't list the prices on the barcodes of the thing. So like there'll be like a bag of gummy bears, nothing, just a barcode. There's no price. What? I've never been to a gas station like that before in my life. Literally, there's no price for anything. So like sometimes people come up and they won't have enough money for it, and they'll be like, let me just, and they'll have to like go to their car and get like change To, like,
yeah, that's not even their fault. I mean, how would they know what? I mean, that's ridiculous. How do
I'm saying that that's what causes it, though.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm
know?
saying. It's not the customer's fault they don't know the price.
Yeah, like, and
Dude,
it sucks.
Could you imagine if you got binded, dude? It'd be so funny. Like you ring up one pack of gummy bears, and they're like, "That's $20," and they're like, and they're like, "Gonna buy." Like you're like, now you're legally binded to buy these. I've already rung them up. I can't cancel out of this. I can't cancel. I can't do anything. What do you want me to do? I'm not a magician. I'm not a magician. You just keep saying that. I'm not a magician. All right, it's $19.99. All right, you should have known that when you bought it. You should have looked at the price.
And the thing is that so each gas station, the Maverick and the Chevron, both have different loyalty cards, like where you scan it and you get points type of thing. With Maverick, you get free drinks every now and then. Like every 10th drink is free, and you get points, and you can spend it on different things. Just like the perk, they call that the adventure card, and then the Chevron they call it a Perks Plus card. And the Perks Plus card, the adventure card, you can just swipe on your own before you swipe your card. The Perks Plus card, they have to give it to me, and I have to scan it. So that's a drawback. And then with the Adventure Club card, it's on an app, and you can just click to use it, and then have them scan it on your phone, and boom, it's done. Perks Plus card, you have to use their little kiosk, and you have to type in, and you have to buy a coupon, and then wait for it to load onto your card. And like people get upset because they can't use their points, and so it's like it definitely does suck, like working for a low rent gas station. You know what I mean? Like
it's weird to me how simple of a fix that would be. Like they do that all the time. I feel like companies make it so much more difficult on customers, and I'm like, I feel like at some we have. It's weird how odd things are sometimes, because sometimes the customer is always right to such a degree that like it's harmful to the business for the customer to be right. You know what I mean?
I know, right?
And other times it's like the customer is wrong. And you're like, I don't know, like this is kind of like I mean, that's fair. Like they should have an app. Well, I don't know, you know what I mean? They should have that ease of use,
And with the Perks Plus, it takes so much longer to get like acquittal the amount of points that it would take for you to get stuff. But because no one ever uses their points, there was this one dude. So you can only see the points on the receipt after they've already bought something, or on the kiosk if they type it in the kiosk. And I saw this guy's points. He's like, "Oh, how many points do I have?" And so I printed off his receipt. He had like $216 worth of points. I was like, "You have like $216 worth of points?" He's like, "How do I use them?" And I was like, "You gotta use the kiosk over there, and you gotta like type in your information." And then he's like, "Oh." And he tossed the card in the trash. He was like, "I'm never gonna do that." Like, whereas
that dude.
No, dude, he like literally, he's like, "I'm never gonna do that." And
no, I'm saying you should have asked him for his information just so you can do it. I mean, it's $216, dude.
It's a lot harder than you think. It's not like
really. Is it? You have to go over to like the Mac, the original MacBook Pro, and you got computer.
You have to actually stick your card into a VCR and no, but like with the adventure card for Maverick, it's so much easier. It's literally just like you open up the app and it says you have this many points, and it says here's what you can buy. A Slurpee is this many points. A hot dog is this many points. Bag of and so it's like it's so easy for you to just be like click, 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 and get it.
That's what I'm saying. I don't. It's like I see the thing is too. It's funny because I do like older things. But sometimes, like, it just makes sense to not.
Yeah, like it makes sense to modernize to some degree to where things are at least usable.
Yeah. So what I mean is, like, if you were to go in, right, like if you were to go into a gas station and it's older, right, and they like say they had like a jukebox, you know what I mean? Like, I mean that's kind of cool, you know what I mean? That's like a nice little touch, But then like if it was a jukebox where you have to bring your own record, you know what I mean? And then you have to like, you know what I mean? You have to like put it in, you got to wait for it to like adjust, and like you're like, is that really all that easier? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe just plug in your phone.
Dude, that reminds me of. So, have you heard of the oldest gas station in the country?
No.
So it's this town in Pennsylvania, and it's the one where they have where the road is like here, and you drive into the pump and then drive out type of thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, which is not, you don't find that often. Usually you pull into a parking lot and it's like that. And there's only two pumps, one on either side. And someone will come out wash your windshield and like pump your gas for you, just like they do in New Jersey and Oregon. But they're like
this is in Pennsylvania.
This is in Pennsylvania, for real. It's the world's, and they literally have a sign that says "World's" or America's oldest gas station, and it's like was started in like the early 1900s. I'm like, how cool would it be to like do stuff like that? Like, I'd love to go.
Dude, that'd be cool. That'd be.
I love the first of everything. Like me and you really wanted to go to the oldest surviving theater in the country.
Yeah.
The Iowa State Theater in Washington, Iowa.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't been, you should definitely check it out. 1897 they've been showing films, which is amazing to me because I was looking up like why there hasn't been very many feature-length films in that period of time up until like 1911 time frame, because there's like they don't exist. Is because the amount of film that they would need would be like crates and crates of film to like make a feature film.
Well, absolutely, you know, and I think I don't know. I think it's funny to. I mean, they probably, that's another thing though too. They probably have a feature film in the sense of like that it's lost, so they don't know about. Because I'm assuming somebody somewhere probably did something kind of just funny. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody had a lot of money and they might have been just slightly intrigued. You know what I mean?
So I was looking it up. I was like, why is it that the first feature-length film ever made was in 1906 and the oldest one we have is in 1911? Like, why is that? So apparently that was like an anomaly. Like they were like, that was like a thing that they wanted to do in 1906 that they thought was going to catch on. Everyone else in that time frame up until like 1911 was making like 30, 40-minute films, or sometimes less, like 15, 10-minute films, because that's what people were expecting. That was like the average length of the movie was like 20 minutes. And like, so because I was like, man, why don't you just make like a longer film? And so it just wasn't common at the time. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think one of the things too that I was just thinking about was that, I mean, you just said it, right? You just said that 1906 was the anomaly. That's what I was about to say. I knew there would have to be an anomaly where somebody tried it, because a lot of cinema and a lot of movie history is weird things like that, where one person was like, why not? You know, like,
and then everyone was like, that sucks, let's never do that again, until 5 years later.
It's funny though too, because it reminds me of that. Have you heard the story of like the guy who invented sliced bread? How like it didn't catch on for a long time. Like it was really, nobody really liked it at all. And then what happened was this guy, like, I think this salesman like bought it or something. He bought like the rights to it or whatever. Or he said, hey, look, this is a good idea. Let me try to, let me try to sell it. And then it ended up catching on, you know. It kind of reminds me.
That's kind of like bottled water. The guy who invented bottled water, they're like, that's retarded. Like literally just turn on your faucet. Like, you know what I mean? Like people thought that was like ridiculous that you would ever buy at the time.
Yeah. Well, even like, or I was even thinking like McDonald's, like the McDonald's bros, right? Like they sold it to Ray Kroc, right?
They sold it to Ray Kroc for like a few $100,000, like not even that much.
Yeah, it's Ray Kroc though that had the vision though to expand and to, for it to become what it was. So like the McDonald's brothers had the great idea, but sometimes you need like somebody else to come in there and like really, you know what I mean, to really like sell this to other people. Because I think part of those things, part of these great inventions is the selling of them, you know.
I didn't realize how revolutionary it was. Like the McDonald's brothers were literally the first people to ever have all disposable packaging and to ever have a complete walk-up window with nothing else. Like, so the idea of like walking up to like the side of a building, ordering your food and just taking it with you to go didn't exist before the McDonald's brothers. I think that's what like Ray Kroc saw that and he just exploded it into a bunch of stores.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean, is that sometimes the genius, the inventor, right, the person who comes with a great idea isn't always the person who's like the best to sell it, you know. And I think that's the same way with like the 1906 film, right? Like they're probably like, oh, this is like, oh, this guy's like a crazy genius. He's like, what if we did a longer version of this? And people would love that, you know. And then they're like, it didn't work at all, and they're like, you're stupid. And then like, of course, like, actually, this is a great idea. You should do this as well.
Well, in 1911, the only reason why that movie was made into a feature-length film is because they were telling a long story. They were telling the story of Dante's Inferno, which they couldn't tell that in like 20 minutes. It was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, clearly.
And then with Birth of a Nation, the reason why it was revolutionary for film is that it was like the first 3-hour film ever made.
Yeah, well,
1915.
What's crazy about that movie, for like, it's so well made considering that he didn't even have a script. Like I said, he was just reading from the book the whole time while he was making it. And I'm like, dude, I've read books. Like, I don't know how you could just flip. I mean, you probably had like an annotated copy, but.
Well, a lot of that, you don't really, you know what I mean? Like for a silent film, a lot of the script is just what are you going to put on the cards? You
Well,
know what I mean?
Well, what I mean though is that no, but I mean like the action though follows so well. I'm saying like the action in that. I mean, you could look. I mean that those action sequences still to this day like have influenced film to such a degree that like I mean you look at like D.W. Griffith's movie in that, and you can see shots taken and they're put in John Ford movies, you know, or they're put in this movie, you know, they're put in this movie. Like
they were impressive. Like I'm always the thing about silent film and the silent film era that I have loved compared to like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, which I don't like as much, is that like I'm always super impressed with anything they're able to do. Because I'm always like such a primitive way of making film in such a delicate and disposable way that they made it. Like
yeah.
I'm always impressed that they have anything. Like you know what I mean? Like that's why me and you I was telling I love to watch a silent film that barely survived. Like one that has like tons of scratches, tons of like it's missing reels, you know what I mean? Like ones that like this is the last pieces of this movie. Like I just think that's so cool.
You know I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think what's really even cooler about the silent film era specifically before the 1920s. Well, like not necessarily
2,700 films left.
Not right before the 1920s necessarily, but the early 1910s stuff is that filmmaking wasn't a huge commercial enterprise at that point. Like it wasn't this giant conglomerate quite yet. And so when you watch like, I mean, it was there like a little bit, obviously, because D.W. Griffith actually had like a bunch of, he had like a troupe of people that he'd make like short films with. I forget what they're called.
Because there was one girl, there was this girl that was in Birth of a Nation, and she was also in this movie called Broken Blossoms from 1919, and she's been in a bunch of different movies with D.W. Griffith. Yeah. And every cue card that he has DG at the bottom for D.W. Griffith.
I always love that too, actually. But it's Lillian Gish, I think you're talking about, or Gish.
Yeah, Lillian Gish. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, she's fantastic. But yeah, no, so he had like a bunch of actors that he'd worked with, and actually, dude, the guy who shot the guy who shot Lincoln in Birth of a Nation, that's Raoul Walsh, who directed The Big Trail. Do you remember watch that with John Wayne? Yeah. I always think that's funny that he's the guy who ended up shooting Lincoln, because that's actually on the cover of Birth of a Nation, is that sequence where Lincoln gets shot. Yeah. You know, and he's like jumping down from the American flag. But yeah, I think it's so cool in the sense of like that was like still when film was kind of like a weird idea, you know, and that's why I love it, is because you can kind of tell that people haven't bought onto it the same way. And I think another cool thing about film that I love in that era is that whenever they saw any moving image, it was like they used to show at circuses. They used to show like moving images. You know what I mean? They used to show it because it was like a freak show. You know what I mean? It was almost like it was the attraction itself was that you can see these moving images. You know what I mean? It wasn't that it was a story. It wasn't that it was the characters. And then all of a sudden it just blew up into it being that, you know? And I think that's what's so beautiful about it, really, is that it became this huge thing that like, I don't know, it was really, I don't know. It's just so cool. Like, I mean, I watched like a movie in the theater, and I was just thinking how like, thinking that this came from that, you know what I mean? From like Birth of a Nation all the way to where we're at right now is crazy. Like, it's just so cool. I don't know. Like, that's so cool. That's like if the first time anybody had ever flown was in a kite, you know, and you're like, okay, well, we started off with kites and now we have airplanes. And you're like,
that's why to me, like, silent films never compare to like regular films. Like, I can't like them the same way. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, they're great but you judge them in their time. It's like judging Jim Brown. Like, Jim Brown was the best running back ever in his era. But then it's like, you can't compare him to Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith. Like, you know what I mean? Or Walter Payton. Yeah. Because, like, they're great in that era. Like, Birth of a Nation was great in its era. And the fact that like, by the way, one thing that I was thinking would be really cool. Remember how I was telling you about how people used to watch movies in, like, a kinetoscope? Like, they used to, like, look. I really wish that we could make something like that, where you could go to a movie theater and it's just one of the side attractions, like in the lobby, that you could like pay. You could pay a nickel still, and you could watch one of those movies in the thing. Wouldn't that be awesome if you could do that? And I also want to see. Imagine, wouldn't this be a fun experiment? Them using the same type of cameras they used in 1910 or whatever, or 1915, and with the crank, and they don't use nitrate film because that stuff is super dangerous, but they use like Kodak safety film, like, you know, the same type of film, and they see if they can shoot a full-length silent film with the same equipment.
That'd be cool, dude. What if, cool? Yeah, I was just thinking though, what if what if like when someone was like rolling, you know, like doing the thing, all of a sudden the camera just exploded on them, like because the film was so highly explosive. That'd be so, out of nowhere, just like what happened? I don't.
I mean,
don't know.
stuff like that happened on set. Like literally, films burned.
No, I know,
on
but I'm
set.
saying like, could you imagine like somebody? Well, burning on set is different though. I'm saying like, could you imagine someone just cranking it like during like a big scene, and then all of a sudden it just explodes, and then like, what'd you do, Gerald? What'd you do? What did you do? I don't. I didn't. I don't. Right?
His face is all black and his eyebrows are gone. He's like, I don't know.
He's got like a cigar that's like exploded. I don't know.
Back in the day, cameramen had to wear like welders masks with the little, you know what I'm talking about, with the little like eye thing.
But
oh my
I think no. I mean, I think so. So it's funny because I do think those. I would agree with you, except I do think some of those movies hold up to some extent. Like I think I really love Charlie Chaplin, and I would put his movies up against anybody's. I don't know. I love
a silent film though. It's missing.
I still, yeah. Even so, I still just love his movies. I just think the enjoyment I get out of his movies are so unique, right? It's similar to like let me. Okay, so like if you really like, okay, so you really like Will Ferrell, right? I'm saying like. The way you love Will Ferrell, though, right? It doesn't matter if somebody has a better movie. It doesn't matter if somebody has this or that, right? Because what makes it so special is Will Ferrell, right? Like you can never repeat a human being. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, unless I guess with CGI, I guess they kind of are now, but they're trying their best attempt at it.
The only like silent films I've seen that I could say truly are like good enough, not as good as like modern day movies, but good enough to where I really really liked it, would be Safety Last with Harold Lloyd.
Yeah,
really like that, and Gold Rush, with which a lot of people say is his best film.
Yeah.
And so because like the slapstick nature of it, and the crazy way that Safety Last was shot, which is like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's just it's different. It's different eras, but I think there is something special about him because of those things. And so, like for instance, like John Wayne, there's no other movie I could watch that makes me feel the same way John Wayne makes me feel. You know what I mean? Or the same way Clint Eastwood makes me feel, right? And I think that's what I'm saying is that like whenever I like a movie a lot that I think is as good as modern movies, it's always because of the actors in them, right? Like it's always the director, the specific director or the specific actor that like embodies this character or this person, you know?
But I think that both of those movies, Safety Last and Gold Rush, those would have been better if they had dialogue and they had sound.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, but I think since they didn't have that technology at the time, or they didn't, you know what I mean, that wasn't available to them. I can't use that against it. It's like okay, so like it's like if you were to watch what's a really great black and white movie,
Casablanca.
Yeah, Casablanca, and you're like, well, if it was in color, it'd be better. I mean, of course, it probably would have been better in color, but I mean, it's still a really good movie when it's not in color, and I don't think that's like a fair critique of it for not being in color because it's not.
They chose to make that in color on purpose. For real, I don't know if you knew that. Like it was 1941, so they could have made it.
It was but
42 maybe.
40. It was 42 when it was released. They couldn't make it in 41 though. Actually, but the thing is, people forget this about Casablanca. It was actually a really small movie. Like when they first made it, it wasn't supposed to be Best Picture. Like it was just another like movie they were pumping out. And so at that time, because 39 would have been Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz, which would have been the first like color. I think those are the first two color movies. Like one of the,
The first feature-length Technicolor movie ever shot was Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Wizard of Oz, yeah. Well, it wasn't. But the thing is, though, that's the thing too. Though it wasn't color all the way through because it was sepia in the beginning and in the end.
Yeah, I think they said that because Gone with the Wind was the most epic picture ever made in terms of like the amount of people that went into it.
Yeah,
and they said 7 Technicolor cameras existed in the world in 1939, and then 4 of the 7 were used to make Gone with the Wind.
Dude, I heard 6 of the 7, but that's
what crazy. Really? You heard 6?
I thought I heard 6.
That would be even crazier.
Either way, though, yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
A majority of the world's Technicolor cameras were used to shoot that.
I think Gone with the Wind, it kind of reminds me of like bigger movies like nowadays in the sense of like whenever
the Avatar of the day.
Yeah, my like whenever I think of movies, I think there's one thing that I can't get past is that as much as I love movies like E.T. and as much as I love like City Lights is actually my favorite Chaplin. As much as I love those like movies that aren't quite as like technically advanced maybe, but are really well told stories, I think, or really well, you know what I mean, just really touching stories that I really love. I view movies as giant spectacles. Like I like Godfather is my favorite movie ever. All 3 of them, I like all 3 of them a lot. And I think my favorite movie is just destined to be a 3-hour movie for the rest of my life, because I think that's how I view movies. Like as a kid, I think it was like, oh, this is like, you know, like the longer it was, the more epic it is. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like whenever you go to see a Star Wars movie, imagine it was an hour and a half. How boring! You'd be like, I don't know. Like Star Wars has to be like 2.5 hours. I feel like that's a really good like spot for Star Wars to be at. It's like 2.5, 2:12. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing is that it's so much harder to make a good 3-hour, 2.5 hour film, because like there's a lot of the times when I see 3-hour films or 2.5 hour films, if the movie was okay, like if it was just okay, there's always a part of me and be like, they could have cut out that like 20 minutes here and that, or that 15 minutes, because like sometimes they do stretch it and there is filler, but like a good 3-hour movie is like, no, we had to tighten it down to 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think it depends though, right? To some extent, because I do agree with you. But I think sometimes, like when I watch like, say like Wolf of Wall Street, right? I think Wolf of Wall Street is funny enough and it has enough rhythm to keep it throughout the whole 3 hours.
It was a 3-hour movie, wasn't it? Dang.
Yeah.
I always forget that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that movie has such a good flow and rhythm to it, though. You almost don't even. I mean, when I watched it the first time, I literally watched it a second time. Like right after it, I played it again because I was just so funny. It was such a good experience. I shouldn't say such a good experience. It was just really funny though. Like it was really hard for me not to be like, this is. I mean, that's how I see cinema. It's just the thing is that like I love. So first off, I mean, I love like Die Hard, and I love movies that are like genre pieces. Terminator is one of my favorite action movies. You know what I mean? Movies like that. They're like really tight. You're saying, you know, but there's something a little better, just significantly better. There's something significantly better about seeing like John Wayne, and then seeing like, you know what I mean, and then seeing Monument Valley, right? Like just like, I don't know, like the whole spectacle of that is so.
It's a grandiose thing. Yeah. The Searchers on a big movie screen, like on a big theater, would be beautiful. I mean, it would be gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like How the West Was Won. I saw that on my laptop, but on that one, it had the 2 lines down the middle because it was supposed to be a triple screen. You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you say?
It was in a Cinerama.
Oh, yeah. Cinerama. Is that what they call it? Where it's like 3 screens at once? But I remember thinking, like, man, this would be even crazier to watch because it was such a like trains crashing into each other, like people shooting, like hundreds of people shooting at each other in the Civil War sequences and stuff.
Yeah, you know? and I think the really cool thing about like cinema right now is that we're moving towards that spectacle. I love, and I don't know. I think people like, I love story, but I love spectacle. I think both those things are really like, you know, like whenever I see things like, whenever you watch, so say like Star Wars, right? Part of the really cool part about watching Star Wars is I remember in the 7th one, which I'm not even that big of a fan of, but I remember when they shoot a bullet, they shoot like a laser cannon, like a bullet at Kylo Ren, my bad. At Kylo Ren, right? And Kylo Ren literally, which by the way speaks to how Kylo Ren really is just Darth Vader. But anyways, Kylo Ren, right? And he freezes it with the Force, right? And I remember the way that the laser, it was like vibrating. It was like zzz, and you could feel that like in the seats. You know what I mean? And again, I didn't love the movie, but I think that part of watching movies is what makes like going to the theater and watching them with other people is so special in the theater.
It's nice to when you feel like a movie's a big deal. It's nice to feel that way. Like, you know what I mean? And I love movie frenzies too. Like when we went to go see Star Wars 7 and every theater in the area, in the bi-state area that we were in, and every screen in every theater was playing Star Wars. Like we're playing nothing but Star Wars.
It was Star Wars 8, by the way, that me and you went to go see.
Was it okay, I must have seen it with someone else for 7. But either way, but like big events where like a movie is so big it takes over like an entire town or entire city. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where like every seat is packed. Those are the funnest ones. You know?
That's what I'm saying. And even though I didn't like Disney's Star Wars, even though like I didn't like, really I hated 9. And I don't even want to talk about 9.
I think it's one of the worst movies ever made. Yeah.
I know. It's probably my least. It's the only movie I've ever seen that I genuinely think like if I had an option to die or watch again, I may not die. If I could like ignore it, like if I could put it on the background and watch it again, but if I had to sit down and like, you know, they do those things that they didn't like
Clockwork Orange,
Clockwork Orange you to the freaking like movie. I don't know. I don't know. Death is an option. Death isn't off the table. But I literally watching 7 and 8 though. There was such an excitement. Like you're right. Like there was, even though I didn't like love those movies, there was an excitement that was built around those movies. Like to this day, the movie that I've seen the most in theaters is Star Wars 7. I saw it 3 times because I had so many people want to go see it with me. I had so many people like, oh, have you seen it yet? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, let's go see it again. And I just think the excitement that those movies build is so unprecedented. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, you know? And even the modern, like, so like recently, obviously like Avatar 2 has come out and other movies.
That's a big spectacle.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but like I'm thinking of like I remember when James Bond came out though, and that was a big buzz. Or I remember when Spider-Man 3, No Way Home, I think. The one with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and you know what I mean?
No Way Home. That was awesome. That was so good.
Yeah, and it's like all this the way that those all brought together, and it wasn't even so. I think No Way Home was a really cool movie. I think that was the best of the 3. Yeah, I would agree. But I think
even though I still can't stand Tom Holland.
I was about to say that. I don't know if I could ever say any movie where Tom Holland's Spider-Man is like an inherently good movie. I think it was good because of all the other stuff, like all the stuff on the side that wasn't Tom Holland. Because I don't really like Tom Holland. I
don't like Tom Holland, and there's really no reason. It is like, what was it? I heard someone say like every now and then there's a celebrity you hate, and there's no reason why. You just hate him. Like that's how I feel about Tom Holland.
Well, dude, I watched The Fabelmans, the movie that's based off of Steven Spielberg's life that he recently made.
Oh, was that good?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I don't know if you like it. I don't think it's if you like Steven Spielberg, you'll probably like it. Like if you want to hear.
I'm not a huge Steven Spielberg guy.
Well, so. I mean, if you want to hear about his life and things like that, then it would be interesting to you. But if you don't, then it probably isn't. I liked it though, but one of the things they did though is that him and his friends are going to a movie, and the movie they went to go see in the movie was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the John Ford film. And they like got in, they were like all watching it, and it was like really mesmerizing. And I remember watching like Fast and Furious 4 and 5. No, was it 5 and 6 maybe? I think it was 5 and 6. I remember watching Fast and Furious 5 and 6 like sneaking into the theater, watching them. You know what I mean? And like it just blowing my mind. You know what I mean? And like, and not even like in a way that like, oh, this is the greatest movie ever made. It blew my mind in the sense of like, it was just so fun. It was just so exhilarating. Like there was something just exciting about these movies, you know? And I remember trying to go see, what's another movie that came out when we were in high school that I didn't get to see?
Deadpool 2.
What'd you say?
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2. Yeah. Me and you saw Deadpool 2. Yeah. Right. That was the last movie you saw before you got shipped out.
That was awesome. I love that movie. Yeah. That movie's a special to me now.
That movie's probably my favorite Deadpool movie.
Of the two.
Well, I don't imagine another Deadpool beating it.
By the way, before we get off the topic of 3-hour movies, if you, I think you would really like RRR. This is a great 3-hour epic film.
Yeah.
It's literally like Avatar for India. Like that's how big it was for India. It was huge.
Yeah, dude.
And it's a great movie too. I mean, whenever you see RRR, I want you to call me right after you see it because it's one of my top 100 now. I love it so much. I wanted to watch it right after, but Kaylee really doesn't want to watch a 3-hour dubbed film with me, so I'll blame her. But
yeah, I think, dude, definitely, I'll have to check it out soon. I think it's crazy because I think the weird part about 3-hour movies, this is what's so odd to me, actually, when it comes to me about 3-hour movies. If you told me we're going to go watch a 3-hour movie in a theater, I'm hyped. That's what I want to watch in the movie theater. If you tell me we're going to go watch a 3-hour movie at home, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm a little like, I don't know, there's a little bit of a hesitancy, which is also why I haven't seen I haven't seen so many famous 3-hour movies because I want to watch them in theaters. I want, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? I want to be like, I want to be enveloped by them, you know?
I have been more disappointed than excited about 3-hour movies. Most of the time for me, 3-hour movies don't pay off in the same way. Like, what was it? Ben-Hur 1959. That was a decent 3-hour movie with Charlton Heston.
Well, I think also
Magnolia was one of my least favorite 3-hour movies I've ever seen.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that one yet. I feel like the Tom Cruise bit's going to save it for me, though. I feel like that's
Tom Cruise has a great performance. The problem with that movie is there's a bunch of circulating plots of different people that don't really have anything to do with each other. It's kind of like, just like, you know what I mean? Like, well, they'll make a movie and it'll just be about life. It'll just be about everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And people in different stages of life. And I don't know. None of the individual plots were like worth it enough for me to like want to watch the whole thing.
No, that makes sense. I really want to, I don't know. Like I said, I really want to see a lot of these movies in theaters. Like, even if, like, here's the thing. Even if you didn't like Magnolia, I think we both agree that it would have served you better to see it in theater than like it.
I think I could say that about almost any movie. Yeah.
Well, Yeah, almost any movie. I do think some movies are better. The way me and you watched, when me and you watched The Graduate, that one time when we skipped work. I think I don't know. I think that was like a really cool moment. You know what I mean? Where watching it at home was maybe the better way to watch it, because I think watching in a theater for me, whenever you watch something like I don't know, like say Jurassic Park, right? That movie would be. I mean, that movie is a theater movie, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, there's no way it wouldn't be more enhanced. And not that Graduate wouldn't be better. It's just more of like when I think of a theater, I always think of either watching it like at night. I never think of watching it during the day. I went to go see a couple movies during the day. And whenever you walk out of the theater, your eyes immediately burn because the sun is so bright. You're like, oh God, as it is literally there's no windows in a theater. Except
dude, watching a theater during the day is the best thing on earth. Like watching an 11 a.m. movie, because it's always like it's almost like you have a second day in the same day. Because like I always have a mental thing where my brain tells me after you watch a movie in theaters, it's time to go to bed. And there's something where my mind says that, and I have to like if I want to hang out, I will. If I want to do more things, I will. But it's always like, oh, it's time for bed. But then when I come out of an 11 a.m. movie and it's like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. and it's like there's 10 more hours of the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's so awesome.
It is awesome. I want theaters to play movies like more often. Like I want to open up a 24-hour movie theater. And I don't know what would play. I don't know what we'd get, but like I'm saying, like, dude, imagine if like you were like a kid in high school. You're like, oh dude, we go to the movie theater, like it's like 2 a.m. You're like, what do we want to do? And you're like, oh well, they're showing Spy Kids in 3D again. You know what I mean? At 2 a.m.
My big thing is that what does it cost to just put a movie on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I get you want butts and seats. You want to like pay the bills of your movie theater, but it's like if you have like 100 reels of different movies in the back, and like, you know, it's like, why not? Like, first of all, you can only do a 24-hour theater in like a big city. So if you could do it in Chicago or New York or LA or like or Boston or like a big,
you could do it in places that aren't like huge. You just have to put it in a place that's really like close to a bar or something. You'd have to the locale.
Enough people. It has to be enough people. Like foot traffic.
Yeah, the locale would have to be smart enough to where like that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I love the idea of a 24-hour theater. And to be honest, there probably is a few that will play movies at like weird times of the days and night. There's probably a few out there in the country right now.
The problem with movie theaters that I have is that I would love to watch a movie in the morning. I would love to watch it at 8 a.m. If there was an 8 a.m. showing of a movie,
dude, that would be so awesome.
Always the earliest showing is like 11:30.
You know how excited I would be to wake up at 6 a.m. and see a movie in theaters?
I know.
I would be so excited. That like excites me right now. Like I'm excited thinking.
No, dude, just imagine you're like on a really great date with your wife, you know, and you're like, well, like it's kind of late. Like, what do you want to do? And imagine you at a theater where they're just showing a movie late at night. And you're like,
yeah. Well, you'd have to all right, let's say you had like 5 screens. If you could stagger it to where every 30 minutes there's another showing, that would be perfect.
And also, dude, I think another thing is, here's another thing movie theaters I don't like that they do. I would buy the rights to a bunch of movies and I would just show them. I would show like, you know what I mean? Like I would show like an old, like, I don't know if you knew this, in 98, I think a Captain America movie came out. I'd buy the rights to that. I'd just show that randomly. You know what I'm saying? I'd buy the rights to a bunch of movie and I would do like a TV series, like a TV show, like our HBO, where they show a different movie every time. Do you get what I'm saying?
I actually just saw there's a theater here in Ephraim, Utah, which is really weird because it's a really small town, but we have 2 movie theaters now.
That's pretty cool.
Like so. Yeah, but it was so there's this really old theater called the Town Theater, Town with an E at the end. And it was like abandoned and like no one used it for a while. And so in the 1990s, they built another one called the Southtown Theater, which it has 2 screens. And then just recently they renovated and remodeled the Town Theater. And so now that one's back, but now there's just a Southtown Theater. But in the Southtown Theater, they just showed an episode. It was an hour-long episode of this dramatic show. And they're like showings for this. It was like season 3, episode 2 or something like that. And it was in the theater. And I was like, oh my gosh! Like when do you ever see that happen? I think I forgot what it was.
I've seen that. I've seen that for certain premieres. Yeah, to hype the premiere of the episode. I always know I love that. I always tell people Game of Thrones. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones would have been better if it was a movie. Like, and I don't mean that in like a mean way. I mean if it was a 10-hour movie and people saw it in the theater, it would blow people's minds.
I can't watch Game of Thrones because I watched 2 episodes with a friend of mine, and it was the episode where Theon Greyjoy gets his dick cut off, and then the next one where he's all sad about having his dick not be there anymore, and that like scarred me so much, and I think about it when I don't want to think about it. And, like literally, that's how like messed up it is to like even think. Like I just think they went too far with it, and I was like, man, I can't keep going with this show. Like,
yeah, it's funny to me that that's like the first episode you watched, because I think that's like obviously maybe one of the
middle.
Yeah, that's also one of the worst introductions you got, because it wasn't even like a cool. Like I would have thought you would have said like episode 2, Battle of the Black Siege. You know what I mean? Like I would have thought like a cool action sequence, like a really cool moment in the story.
I have watched a few of those scenes just from YouTube compilations, like best action scenes of Game of Thrones, like on YouTube. I've watched a few of those. They're great. I think that their sex and profanity on the show is a bit excessive. I mean, I don't know what your stance is on it.
I think absolutely. So I think it's funny because,
like, if you were the director, like if you were the guy running the show, I would have none of that.
I was going to say, you already know my stance on that in terms of what I would have in it. But in terms of like for the show, I mean, they do it like I don't even think about it. Like it's just such a second thought to me because I don't even care about it. Like it's not interested me. It's like kind of the thing is what I think it really does, and this is why I think they do this. And why they have like, like Game of Thrones obviously is known for killing off the main character, right? Like they're known for that. Why they do that, why they have so much is because I think they're trying to tell you nothing is off limits. Like if we wanted to, we will literally, you know what I mean? We might just murder someone for real. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's just more of like a mindset. Because I mean, you watch that show and I mean, really, what is off limits? It's like an episode of like, it's like a snuff film in a TV show.
Walking Dead does that.
Yeah. And I think they really do that though, just to like, to really psychologically tell you nothing's off limits. Like we will literally show whatever we want. And do I think it works? Yeah. Do I think I would ever do that? No. Because I think it's not something I'm interested in. But
well, me and you have also talked about how TV is not the best medium for video. Like because like there's a lot of different shows that have really good plot lines, really good ideas. And I'm like, man, this would be great as like a trilogy movie. Or as just one great 2.5-hour movie, like Breaking Bad. Imagine if Breaking Bad was a 2.5-hour movie.
I think but the thing is, Breaking Bad, I do think is one of the rare TV shows that should have been a TV show. I love it as a TV show.
They planned that one too, though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think Breaking Bad actually is the one I was going to bring up too. Is that shows me the way that like that TV can compete with movies, and they can do it really well. I think, and this is what I was trying to say. This is the difference between Breaking Bad and like a movie like Scarface. Right, and this is what I was getting at earlier was a spectacle. When I watch Scarface, it's like that scene where he puts his freaking face in this giant, Coke mountain. You know what I mean? And he just rubbing it all his face in it. You know what I mean? There's a certain kind of spectacle to it, right? There's a certain kind of excess, and especially Scarface really works towards that. Is that excessiveness?
Well, and stereotypically, and like throughout history, up until the last like 10, 20 years, the level of production value for a movie has like traditionally been a lot higher.
Well, yeah. Even still though, I mean, in a movie, what Avatar was made for? What? I mean, 350 million. Now I think Avatar 2.
Did they break the record for most expensive?
It's the most expensive movie ever made. But they're also making multiple movies at the same time. They made 3, I think, at the same time. But either way, though, it broke the record though, or it was made for an excessive amount of money. And I'm saying like, but then I mean, they would never make a TV show for 250 million. There's no way they would ever do that.
They did make, what was it? They made a Jack Reacher episode. Or no, the prequel to the Game of Thrones. I think it was like 20 million an episode. They said was what
really?
It was. Yeah. So
that
for like 8 episodes.
Yeah, that might have been close then. That would have been what, 8 episodes? That's what, 160
something. Yeah,
160. Yeah. I mean, so that's my point though. Is that but Game of Thrones is like as big as it gets for TV. Like, I mean, that's the biggest TV show ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like there's like Seinfeld. I mean, I don't know how much money it costs to make Seinfeld. But I doubt Seinfeld was anywhere close to like.
Here's another thing too, though. If it cost that much money, it was to keep the people on Seinfeld, right? Like they were paying the.
It was to pay the checks of Michael Richards and
It was It was not to pay for anything else. It wasn't the sets. It wasn't anything else that was getting the money.
It was to pay for Jason Alexander's hair plugs.
Like that's my point though. Is that like the spectacle of the cinema? Is that like that's the thing? You're never gonna get. you can't beat it. In TV shows, people, I think I get so upset with this cinema is dead theory that like the cinema is more alive than ever. Like it's been, I mean, you just, okay, yeah, you see it on TV, but like Game of Thrones though is cinema. Like, and I know it's not the same cinema that we were used to, but it is. And it's not, I mean, Game of Thrones, if you were to show it, I guarantee if you were to show every episode in the movie theater, I guarantee you'd have a decent box office. You know what I mean? I don't know if it'd be proportionate enough to like make back the money that they're, you know, I think you'd probably make millions of dollars.
It would make money.
That's my point. Yeah, I don't know if it would be like worth it to do it consistently, but I'm saying it would make money because people want to go. That's how you'd want to watch it.
Imagine if they put The Office in theaters. Oh my god.
See, but that would, okay, but no, what's happening, and this is why people think cinema is dying, is because you just said that. But that's a silly. I mean, that would, okay. I would like to see The Office in theaters to some extent, but it's also
just a season in
yeah. It's also kind of silly because I'm saying, would it benefit all that much beyond the fact that like when you laugh with people, that's really what it would be. It would be really great to just laugh with a bunch of people, right? Like everybody'd be into it, everybody laughing at the same time, right? I'm saying like when people think of movie theaters, they're like, oh, well, romantic comedies are dying out. They're all going on Netflix now. Yeah, they're all going on Netflix, but I'm saying like if you were to pop in a really good one, like I remember going to a screening of Mean Girls, like right after the pandemic, you know what I mean? Because theaters were like putting in old movies, and the theater was nearly packed. People want to see movies in theaters. That I don't think that's ever changed.
I saw Smokey and the Bandit in theaters.
Yeah,
at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm saying like people just don't want. I think people just don't want to that risk sometimes. You know what I mean? They don't want all that risk involved. And so what I'm saying is like you pop in The Office in theaters, it'll make money. I bet it'll make money.
Oh, dude. Well, especially since The Office is a special case where they have like a cult following. But like another thing that I hate is that people say like there's no good movies being made today. I'm like, dude, RRR was just made and it's on my top 100. Nobody. You see Nobody with Bob Odenkirk?
I haven't seen Nobody yet, but I've seen parts of it.
One of the greatest action movies ever made. Just came out like last year. And then No Time to Die, in my opinion, the best Bond film ever made. Like just came out. Was it this year or last year?
It was last year.
Dude, it's like the Batman with what's his name? Robert Pattinson. Yeah. Dude, such a beautiful, visually striking film. Yeah. Like, and I just think like the idea that like films now just suck. Like that's always been a thing for like forever. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, dude, in the 70s, Pauline Kael, a famous critic, she was like, movies are dying. In the 70s, when in the movie that most people probably think of as the greatest movie ever, Godfather.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm saying like Jaws. Like it really, she had no idea. Like, movies. The problem is, and this is what I always tell people, the problem with like our conception of like the current state of anything is that we only know what's happened in the past. And so we don't know where things are going. So like when we say cinema is dying, what they're really saying is a certain kind of cinema is dying, which I think is right. I think we're seeing less studio comedies in theaters. I think we're seeing less romantic comedies in theaters. I think we're seeing less blah, 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 right? Like XYZ that we've constantly had in theaters. But you know what's not dying? Horror films are doing great. Horror films have always been doing great. Action movies are doing great. You know?
Horror films have been on a constant uptick.
Yeah.
Since like the 70s to now. Like it's insane.
And so like get action movies. I mean, look, the biggest movie of the year, Top Gun. People want to see big movies. People want to see like this. It's not dying. Movies are changing. You're just not. Yeah. So comedies aren't going to be in theaters as much. I mean, is that really a big a loss? Is that huge of a loss? I think
it's ebbs and flows. I think maybe right now we're in an ebb, but I think there is a time when it could go back.
Well, no, it will. Well, because I mean, you even look at, so like I was looking at this yesterday, actually, sci-fi action movies after The Matrix, original sci-fi action movies blew up. So like you have like Equilibrium, which is which is a fantastic like kind of action sci-fi movie.
I like Equilibrium.
Yeah, you have like Ultraviolet, which is also the same director. You have, but you have all these other ones where you're like, wow, these, they had all these original sci-fi ones.
Oblivion.
Well, that was 2013. But yeah, you have, but then it kind of died out. Bird Box came out in 2010. Actually as well, but I'm saying like, but you have all these sci-fi action ones that are like, Bird Box came out like 2018, by the way, but I meant like in the 2010s. But what I'm saying is, you have this huge explosion of action movies, right? Okay, so like, and that are sci-fi like that, right? Okay, well that's really cool. Okay, well let's look at what happened, right? John Wick was a huge hit. What do we have now? We have Violent Night. We have Nobody. We have that movie where it's first person. I can't think of the name.
Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry, right? I'm saying you have James now. Now John Wick is the standard. So what do people want to see? Now we're making more John Wick-esque films. You know what I mean? And so what I'm saying is like it's just the next big hit, and then people are just going to copy it. You know, Die Hard. What happened with Die Hard? Under Siege. Every movie's just like Die Hard. You know what I mean? After like Die Hard, it was so many Die Hard knockoffs.
Well, I don't get why people keep saying that because I don't see what's so special about Die Hard. That's the problem.
Die Hard, yeah. No, the thing about Die Hard, it was a huge hit and it was really cheap to make because it was just them in a building when this guy has to like stop this terrorist group. So it's similar to even like a lot of movies. And what I'm saying though is that like so what happened with John Wick? Dude, John Wick's the ripple effect of John Wick within the film industry is huge. Like Daybreak, have you seen her? I meant Day Shift with Jamie Foxx on Netflix.
No, is it good?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, dude. It's worth it to see. I love Scott Adkins. He's one of my favorite action action stars. But what I'm saying is the ripple effect of those movies is being seen to the point to where now, if you're a stunt coordinator, you're just getting movies. You're like stunt coordinators becoming directors is a huge thing now because the guy who did John Wick was a stunt coordinator because they actually know how to do those things. They actually know how to do the stunts, you know. And then look at Top Gun. What is Top Gun? It has real stunts, right? What is that's what Tom Cruise is known for, doing real stunts. I mean, I remember watching this trailer for the new Mission Impossible, and it's just Tom Cruise doing a stunt. That's really the trailer, because people want to see that. And I'm saying like we have two movements right now currently with action, and it's heavy CGI. So like Avatar 2, you know, Avatar, Ready Player One, where it's like CGI, like, you know, escapes, you know what I mean, like worlds, and then you have real action. You want to make it as real as possible, where it's just John Wick and that whole knife sequence in John Wick 3 where they're throwing the knife back and forth, you know, and it looks super realistic.
The knife scene where they're in like a knife and gun store and they keep breaking through the glass to like grab more knives and throw at each other. Like that was so awesome.
Yeah, and I'm saying like those are the two movements right now, and I love it, and I think we're just seeing changes in cinema, like you said, ebbs and flows. I mean, if you were to judge the history of cinema off the Western, which was, by the way, with cinema, right? Like cinema. The Western's always been a big staple in the cinema up until like what, the 90s, 80s. I mean,
dude, I would say a lot of people consider Unforgiven the last great Western ever made. I think that was like 1993 or something.
92. It won Best Picture in 93, I think.
Okay, but a lot of people consider that the last great Western.
Well, the last the last huge studio Western. But I mean, you even just look at True Grit, which came out in 2010. I think I don't know. That's true, but I guess okay, but look at Django Unchained, right? Like in Hateful Eight.
Django Unchained is awesome. But that's almost like not even an action though. No, or not even a Western. What changed
with the Western, and why you're right, I think, about Unforgiven, I think it's actually before Unforgiven, it died off, was that what happened is that the studio stopped producing them in the numbers they did before. I mean, look at musicals. Musicals are dead too. But what happens every now and then, musicals will pop back up. You know what I mean? La La Land, The Greatest Showman on Earth. I mean, they'll pop back up every now and then. But I'm saying they're not being produced. Like I'm saying, Westerns used to be superhero movies. You know what I mean? And I'm saying, but if you were to judge the Western, if you were to judge cinema off the Western, you'd be like, man, what happened to cinema? Like cinema's dead. No, we're just changing. We're just changing as a society.
But I guess as if you were just going off the Western, then yeah, you would be right to some degree.
No, you would say the Western is dead. What I'm saying is that you're judging it based off of particular studio fares, right? Like particular genres. But that's not fair to judge the whole of cinema off of that, because I think you see it, by and large, people are still going to the movie theater. Now, again, I think we're seeing like smaller numbers in certain ways, but I think really what's happening is that what we're seeing is that we're going to have a new cycle through. Like we're going to have, certain things are dying. Like you have to kill off all the desire for sequels for new things to be made. You know what I mean? Like, and we're getting at that point now, where new things are going to be made. Like a lot of money is going to be thrown at the theater for XYZ. Like, I mean, how cool would it be just to go to Nickelodeon and pop in a nickel? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be cool. I think it would be cool for you're not going to make any money off of it, but I think it would be a cool thing to have in the theater.
You could make a lot of money off of them in the sense of it's the basis of an arcade, right? They make monies off of arcade. Nobody has to be there for an arcade to work. People just pop in their quarters and then they play it for a little bit. You know what I mean? I mean, those things make ridiculous amounts of money because there's no labor required for it to work. And so I probably wouldn't do it for a nickel. I'd probably do it for a quarter. Like episode 1 for a quarter, episode 2 for a quarter.
Well, then it'd be a quarter Lodian. it wouldn't be a Nickelodeon. The whole thing is that it's a nickel. You know what I mean? Which I do want to see if I can find one of those machines that still works. There's got to be one from like the 1900s that still works. Dude, I can't remember if it's hand cranked or not.
I want to bring back an automat. That's what I want to bring back.
Which I don't know if you knew, there actually is one in New York City that's operating right now. It's
well, like people, there's like one in San Francisco. There's a whole brand that try to come back, and they're kind of like around like a little bit, but
it's hard, dude. It's one of the most difficult ways to have a restaurant, I think, is like automat style.
Well, I think
in terms of like monetarily, you know.
Yeah. I mean? Well, no, I mean, I think an automat works really well because it's like a food vending machine, right? But
a lot of food would get wasted. That's the problem.
That's what I was about to say.
So you have 30 different items of food, and let's say in a given day, maybe 12 of those 30 items get taken. You know what I mean? And then maybe they don't even get taken that often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna say that the only problem with the only issue with that business model is that if food could last like from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, it would be so much easier for that model to work. But like it really,
like when I worked at the gas station, they're like, so you put the taquito on. They were showing me how to do the taquitos and the roller grills items, and they're like, and then once it's done cooking after like 20 minutes, you put it on this section of the grill, and then it's good for 6 hours. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, for 6 hours it's good. I'm like, where does it say that? Like, because it doesn't say that on the box. It doesn't say it's good for 6 hours. I'm like, where does it say that it's good for 6 hours? Like, that's just what we do. I'm like, so you're saying it's good for 6 hours? 6 hours is a long time for a taquito to be sitting on a grill.
I know, dude. What if you ate it? You bit into it after like, so you bought it at $5.50. You know what I mean? And you eat it, and you're like, oh god, oh. It's like
I'm pretty sure this hot dog isn't supposed to shatter like glass when I eat it. Like,
what if the hot dog just like exploded? Like it's like you bite
like
into
the oil pockets.
Yeah. It just shoots everywhere. Dude, what do they call things like funny, like meat pocket?
That would be meat pocket. Do you have any final thoughts for the listeners before we head out?
Let's see. I don't know. Here, you start with your final thoughts. Oh yeah, don't we have to do hidden gems? Hey, wait, yeah. What hidden gems have you seen recently?
I'm actually gonna look real quick because I write down all my movies. Let me see here. A movie that a lot of people might not know about. It did come out a few years ago, so it's not like too hidden. But it's not a movie that a lot of people would really know about. It's No Escape in 2015. You ever heard of that movie?
Yeah, with who? It's got a guy.
Owen Wilson and Lake Bell. Yeah, and so it's a very dramatic, like serious movie. It's like a dramatic action, but it's like there's no comedy in it at all, which is like really interesting to see Owen Wilson being like a non-comedic role. But it's a fictional story about these white guys that come in to like Vietnam or like somewhere in like Asia, and they're work for like a water purification plant or something to put in like pipelines, like water pipelines, and like everyone is protesting that they're there because it like is affecting the environment in a negative way. And so then all of these Vietnamese people come in and they just start like murdering all the white people. They start like coming after, like it's literally just they find an American and they kill him because they think like the Americans are trying to like, you know what I mean, trying to like take over their environment. And so Owen Wilson is one of the 3 guys that's like on the billboard for like the company, and so him and his family are like running for their lives in this like crazy. It's like action from the moment the action starts like 15 minutes in to like the end of the movie. It's a nonstop, like heart pumping, like you're in it with them every step of the way type of thing. Like, and Pierce Brosnan is in it too.
That's pretty cool, dude. It reminds me. I was gonna say about Lake Bell, dude. I think that's one of my favorite names I've ever heard of. Like any actress.
It is a nice name. It is a nice. Lake Bell is such a nice name. Like Blake Lively is also a really nice.
Yeah, Blake Lively is good. It helps that both of them are also pretty attractive too. Like that, obviously, but like just the names though. If I just hear the names, you know, like, oh hey, my name's Robert, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm Lake Bell. I don't know, that like has like I don't know.
So nice, yeah. Me and you have talked about how women that have like like male names are like forced to be hot because like they have like you know what I mean, such a masculine name.
What
Like,
what's that one that you always brought up? It was something Ryan.
oh
No, Evan. It was Evan.
Evan Rachel Wood is so gorgeous. Yeah, she is in Westworld and King of California.
Yeah, dude. Evan Rachel Wood. I like that 3 name too. Evan Rachel Wood.
Because if you give her a boy's name, you gotta give her a girl's middle name at least. That way she can like choose which one she wants to go by.
Then it's just what's your name? Oh, it's Evan Rachel. Nice to meet you. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it just has a nice. I remember one person went by like what was her name?
Darren. There was a girl named Darren in our high school. She was a few years older than us. Remember her? It was Daryn, and she was gorgeous.
Oh,
remember her?
Really? I know I don't remember that, but I mean I'm sure. I was gonna say no. The name. What name is it that I was just thinking of? Somebody whose names was like Susie Q or something like but I was like, no, it was something like that though. But I'm saying like where their middle name was always combined with their first name, and I was like, no,
really?
but like your first name's just like Susie, and they're like, no, it's. And I'm like, I don't like. Is that? Do you always like? I don't know. Like I think it's funny when you have a first name, but like they always call you first and middle.
I'm still debating on whether or not I want to go by Ethan Mark Downing because I feel like it goes together nice, like Lee Harvey Oswald,
It's the worst version of that, by the way.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, fine,
dude.
But it goes together.
Lee Harvey Oswald. You just pick an assassin's name, like I don't know.
Well, he was a Marine too. So.
It's so funny to think that you just rattled off the worst version.
John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah, John Wilkes. Yeah, is that a rule for an assassin? Like you got to go by your middle.
Yeah. That'd
what
crazy.
What if one of their names like you're Ashley and like and Gone with the Wind? What if it was like Ashley? I'm trying to think of another girl guy name.
That's such a crazy. It's crazy to think that was only a guy's name in the 1800s.
Yeah,
only was just for men was Ashley. Doesn't exist,
dude. What if that's a funny? What if that was a Just for Men commercial? Ashley, just for
yeah.
Men.
What's your hidden gem?
My real quick, I was gonna say have you seen The Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, his name's Ashley in that one too, because he goes
really?
he goes by Ash, but his name's Ash. Name. But anyway,
didn't they make another movie called Ash versus Evil Dead?
Yeah, Ash versus the Evil Dead.
I
heard it's a TV show, I think. But yeah, either way, my hidden gem. Have you seen Pitch Black?
No, I don't think I have.
That has Vin Diesel in it. It's the beginning. It's the beginning movie of the Chronicles of Riddick, like the Riddick series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pitch Black. It's like it reminds me a lot of John Carpenter films. So like The Thing,
Halloween.
Yeah, well, specifically though, he had like this genre where he would just have people like in a singular locale, and then they'd just get attacked, like Ghost of Mars, Assault on Precinct 13.
Assault on Precinct 13. What did he do? He did the one in like the 1970s, right?
Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah.
It's like because he loves Rio Bravo, so all of his movies are just Rio Bravo. Like a lot of them are just Rio Bravo ripoffs. And
I like Rio Bravo.
Rio Bravo is great. Do you know that's how Tarantino? That's like his like litmus test for like women, if they like Rio Bravo or not. Like if he can still date them.
Yeah,
he said that. He said if they don't like it, then like he's not dating them. Like
Is that what Tarantino said?
Yeah, he's like, all right, then we made up our mind. It's funny to think like that's like his qualifier because I really think
a guy with that face is willing to be like, if you don't like my movie, then I can't date you. It's crazy.
I know, but I think it makes sense though in the sense of like if for anybody,
maybe the ugliest director ever.
No, dude, not even dude. Danny DeVito's directed.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. He is before he was directed a movie. He would have been the ugliest director.
No, but I mean, like, come on, directors. There's a reason why people are usually directors, right? Like, I mean,
Michael Moore is an ugly dude. Yeah.
Think about, dude. There's a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and that's not even like a diss on them. That's just, I mean,
they're not a a heartthrob.
There's a reason why you're a director, right? Like, and you're not. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be mean, right? Like, but that's, I mean, that's that's how it is.
Seagal's not like an ugly dude, though. I mean, he's like or not Steven Seagal.
Fat Steven Seagal.
bad Steven Seagal is. But I meant to say Steven Spielberg is like a normal looking dude.
Wait, I want to say
George Lucas is a normal looking guy.
Yeah. I want to say for the record, Steven Seagal, if you ever listen to this and you ever have the opportunity to work with us, we want to work with you. We're not against working with you.
Like, we'll do whatever you say to get whatever movie you want to get done. You know what I mean? It's not going to be fun. It's a chore. It's going to be a chore to work with him. You know, like
I still want to work with him. So I just want to say, like, there's no like later on if he's like, I remember this one time when you called me fat. You know, I don't want to say, look, dude, I said from the beginning, after I called you fat, I said I want to work with you. Like, that didn't change, right? Like, it didn't. I'm not going back on anything.
And he's the kind of guy who, before he works with someone, he's going to look up their name and his name to see if they talked about it. They'll look up Robert Kirkendall, Steven Seagal, and then just see what pops up.
Oh, dude, that's funny.
But I should probably go. Duty calls, you know. So,
yeah.
But check us out on our Facebook page, the Downkirk Podcast, and check us out at noon every Wednesday for new episodes. Like and subscribe. You'd be one of the original subscribers. Really appreciate that. And share the video with friends. That would really help.
That would really help. Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget to contact us. You know, if
contact us. Downkirk7@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, fun stories you want to share, if you even want to be a guest, I mean, we're not closed off to the idea of having a guest, but so
anything
still open. Yeah, totally. So, and I will see you guys next week.
Yeah.